Welcome to my channel where I'll be trying out Ascension and hopefully making a build that can tackle mythic content. I've been playing as a Grove Ranger for quite some time now, and I must say it's not bad once built properly. I've noticed that a lot of new Rangers are having trouble on higher mythic levels, so I hope that this video will help guide new Grove Rangers in the right direction as far as builds go. So let's take a look at the overall abilities I personally picked as I grew this build into the Druid/Ranger hybrid that she is. First up is the skill Vampire Lord. This allows my Shadow Artillery shot to deal an area of effect heal on the entire party, which is a massive bonus to my already strong heal over time effects. I've noticed that it also has a secondary heal over time going off when it lands, dealing massive damage spread between enemies. And then we have Blooming Shot. This is the bread and butter of your healing kit. You'll see that your overall party healing in a radius of where the shot landed is who gets healed. This uses arcane shot modifiers and can benefit from arcane shot talents in this season. Blessing of the Divines can proc this, which is a huge bonus to your healing kit. You have Blessing of the Titan, which increases the party's health by 10% and reduces their damage taken by 10% for 8 seconds. Blessing of Creation, which restores rage, energy, and mana to you and your party members. You have Blessing of Time, which increases the haste of you and your target by 10% for 10 seconds. Blessing of Mending heals up to 5 friendly targets. And finally, Blessing of the Divines, which heals up to 5 friendly targets over 15 seconds. Just overall good epic healing for our Grove Ranger. Well, anyways, this talent is a legendary enchant and has an extremely low chance to be rolled as a card. But that's what wildcard is this season. Don't despair if you can't get this to roll. We can move on to the other aspects of this build. This is the skill I referred to earlier, namely combining this with Vampire Lord to cause a party-wide heal that also does a heal over time when the shadow damage over time occurs. Please do note I have yet to notice 35% of my mana returning to me when I use this, despite it saying so in the description. I've never had issues with my mana, so maybe it is working and I am too stupid to notice during combat. Either way, I love this combination. There is a heavy recharge timer, and I do not recommend you take on Dark Ranger talents to negate that unless you wish to build this in a different direction. I myself find that Vampire Lord by itself lacks strong healing capabilities to further invest in using Shadow Bolt to get the needed shells to cast more Shadow Artillery shots. But maybe you yourself could find a way to make it work. For me personally, this works even with the high cooldown cost. Every healer needs some type of cure spell, and when you're in Scholarmance, you'll wish you had this spell. I don't have a Tremor Totem, but so far it hasn't been too harsh without it. So I want you to pay attention to this simple starting spell, Meditate. Did you know you can generate combo points with Blooming Shot with the talent Compound Power? This keeps my mana nice and full with my other items and skills. Grove Rangers go through mana like crazy. Arcane Shot is Blooming Shot. Blooming Shot generates 2 beautiful combo points with Compound Power, all while you heal your party. Yes, I know I am a genius. I spend hours just reading talents to come up with these, which others will probably do as well if they focused on every aspect of a build. Now you can use Meditate to your little heart's content, or look to see if there are any combo point finishers you'd like to incorporate in this build. Blessing of Might, a buff that gives me more attack power, which helps me deal damage. Medicinal Sting, which uses Serpent Sting modifiers. Without this, you won't be able to use the Talent Grove Medicine, which further heals even more. And no, just for the record, the talent that makes this hit multiple enemies won't give you multiple heals or sting buffs. Only one target or one enemy can have this debuff, and you'll want to keep it up as much as possible. Blooming Shot and Medicinal Sting go hand in hand. You are not a Grove Ranger without both of these skills and talents, so be sure you have these, which are free at level 1, and have the Grove Medicine talent as well. Void Shift is your oh shit healing ability that swaps your current health with the health of another, which is usually the tank. No matter how good you are, you'll sometimes find yourself lacking in the ability to keep someone alive, usually due to a failed mechanic, or perhaps someone pulled too many mobs, and now you're finding a party member on the brink of dying. This skill with its low cooldown is a saving grace for such a situation. Yes, Wrath of Air Totem. I only use this for another talent that makes my attack power increase, based on a place totem for 5 minutes. That's it, really. Oh, and it gives the party more spell haste, so I guess that's good too, huh? Zulian Guardian? I hope I said that properly. This heals me whenever the tank forgets to protect the party, and I find myself taking too much damage at once. This ability summons 2 tiger pets temporarily into the battle that heals you and deals damage to whatever is attacking you, or if an enemy is close by. Be sure to set them to defensive afterwards, or they will go off and grab more mobs for you. These guys have saved me a few times in my early days, before I had all of my talents together. They are entirely optional to this build. Potion Toss, a new ability that I have not seen before that even at low levels is pretty good. It uses energy instead of mana and incorporates a heal over time effect to anyone it's used on, and it gives you a combo point for all your troubles. This also can trigger your Blessing of Divine Talent, so keep that in mind. I use this in the moment I have no mana and need to do an emergency heal. With all the talents I have now, the only way I lose mana is if it gets drained by a boss. But this can also be used to get enough points to meditate in case you need to have it going while not in battle. Don't sleep on this simple heal. Poison Nova is used when I've meditate up and just want to punish my enemies with an area of effect damage. This is pretty good at a full stack of combo points and supposedly makes your poisons deal more damage along with Envenom finisher. I don't use poisons nor do I use Envenom, so that could be an alternative route you want as a Grove Ranger. After all, we are a damage dealer and a healer hybrid. Remember, Compound Shot talent gives you 2 combo points that you gain every time you use Blooming Shot, so this was a choice I made when I saw the skill card. Here's a unique bit of advice. Did you know that Blooming Shot and Poison Nova both give you a stack of Telsa Coil with your animal pet? I don't use Tame Beast, but it's an interaction that works in case you want a pet. Cool Fungarians work as a Summon Trance upgrade. These creatures deal damage as a group of mushrooms that also deal area of effect damage to monsters. I have taken this skill even further with Guardians of the Grove, as I wanted even more healing to my kit over damage. And in later harder difficulties, you won't be out damaging the real damage dealers in higher mythic tiers. We'll look at that more later on. Twisted Mind gives more spell power, which gives you more damage, and as you know, spell damage also increases ranged attack power now. It decreases your heals and absorbs, but the amount is so little you won't notice it if you've got the gear and talents to support everything else. I recommend this, but you can skip it if you feel the need not to use it. Banshee's Wail, a quite lovely skill to have, as a crowd control that heals you and puts fear into everything around you that isn't immune to fear effects. I have saved a tank many times with this skill whenever things go south, or a boss revives multiple mobs. This gives you a few seconds to fix any errors you've made, heal the tank, heal yourself, or just readjust and get yourself out of a jam. I recommend having some type of crowd control on your ranger if you have the room for one. Revive. Yes, revive. Unfortunately, people in the party will die, even when you yourself have done everything to prevent this. Usually a death occurs when the DPS have too much faith in your healing capabilities and stand directly in corpse explosions, or stand in a purple poison of death and, well, die. You'll want this in leveling, and you'll want it in case the person who dies doesn't know how to run back to the group. Swift Mend. What can I say? I have learned to love this particular spell. It used to be, I would use Healing Touch over Regrowth as my healing, but Regrowth has had so many uses that I've favoured Swift Mend over Healing Touch, and here is why. spamming my tree summons so that they can help me heal if I truly need it. You see, Guardians of the Grove allows all my summoned tree pets heal anyone who dips below 90% life, and they all stack when cast on a person, giving them massive healing over time on top of your Blooming Shot, Blessing of the Divines, and Grove Medicine. You should accept people to commend your healing efforts and push harder content. It happens all the time, when I do dungeons and even get offered into Ascended content, which I have yet to do. Life Bloom. If I start having to use this, which I have before, this means the party is taking quite a beating, and even my Blooming Shot and Blessing is having to contest with the damage bursts from mythic mechanics. Your tree summons will use this too, and well, Life Bloom has always been good to have if you need a delayed heal. I recommend getting this spell in your kit as a last-ditch effort to keep more healing over time on your tank, and it stacks. The last tick of this healing will result in a bigger heal the more stacks you place on the tank, but prioritize Blooming Shot unless things really are going badly. Cleanse. Well, I assume you are in the know of basic healing tactics, but if I must explain this, then so be it. You'll want to remove debuffs from party members. The delay from not being able to use Blooming Shot is there, yes, but some debuffs you'll want to remove as they can cripple a party member. You'll want to at least have some type of debuff removal as a healer, so keep that in mind as you roll your talents. So hear me out on this one particular heal. Healing Touch, you can roll this at level 1, and with the Grove Ranger talent, it is an instant cast as well. This heal is a stronger heal than Regrowth on the base level, and if your tank is really bad at staying alive, I found myself using this for a long time over Regrowth at the start of my growing potential. After a while, I rarely use this now over Regrowth and Swift Mend, but I have a saying, if the tank is good, use Regrowth. If the tank is terrible, use Healing Touch. And now for what I personally use, Regrowth. It has so many utilities and talents that I found it hard to pass up as a Grove Ranger. It heals first, then applies a heal over time effect. There is a talent I use that makes the critical heals extend the Regrowth healing over time to 3 other party members, and Swift Mend makes my tree summons spawn faster with a cooldown reduction. Let alone, there is always a heal going on over time when I use this that I ended up moving my Healing Touch over off the number keys in favour of Regrowth. There are multiple talents that support this heal. Test and see which is best that works for you as a Grove Ranger. As I've said before, you'll want spells that remove debuffs, and curses are one of them. This one leaves a few seconds of attempting to remove a curse from a party member, which I favour, or the instant removals, as it gives me time to keep using Blooming Shot while having a mini healer apply a removal for a few seconds after I cast it. Arcane Intellect. I use this to further my damage and healing with spell power and intelligence. It's a party-wide buff now, and with the changes of making spell power, increase attack power. Now it's a win-win for everyone. I'll admit I never, ever use this spell. It's collected dust, but my tree summons utilize it, and it's a nature heal. One day, maybe I'll find a macro that allows me to apply it to people randomly. There is the talent that's called Grove Medicine that lets it apply to anyone with your Abolish curse, but it takes way too long and is way too useless to be considered useful on this build. Now this spell, I use a lot of, especially when there is real healing and support needed. Wild Growth on a Grove Ranger gets a buff based on the stacks you've acquired from the Grove Ranger talent, but I use this with the talent that gives the party mana and the talent that doubles its healing but reduces the amount of people it heals. Beacon of Light is a spell I use when I know that the tank is about to get their asses kicked, and Blooming Shot won't be quite enough to not scare the hell out of the party when the time comes and the tank starts getting said ass kicking. I used to combine this with Loyal Light to extend the duration with Potion Toss, but I since dropped it and just use it on its timer when needed. I do use this more often in higher tier content, as it is free healing for every Blooming Shot you use. I recommend having this on standby when you need to heal more. Lay of Hands. When you're using this over Void Shift, things must have gone so badly that you're on your last legs. Without any enchants or talents, this is a 15-minute cooldown. This is the last line before the tank dies, and it is to only be used if you can't heal them back in time before they die. If Void Shift isn't on cooldown, use that first over this. Hopefully you won't be needing to use this at all in your career as a Grove Ranger, but having 2 oh shit heals available is a good failsafe to keep the party alive along with your sanity. Force of Nature, the Helping Hand healers, if you have Guardians of the Grove, in which that is currently what I use with this skill and talent. I was able to card this when they updated the number of slots for every character, and this does not share a cooldown with the Mushroom Summon Call Fungarians, so you can use them back to back after one goes on cooldown. If you don't have Guardians of the Grove, they can be used as a little extra DPS until you do, or you can omit them both and the talent for something else. But I found myself using this combination for some extra healing when burst damage happens in higher tier content. Your mileage will vary, and do what works for you in this regard. Now this interaction is new for us Grove Rangers. Chimera Shot actually gives a pulse of healing as a smart heal to party members, meaning it will heal whoever needs it if you have an active medicinal sting on a target. Please note that you must use this Hunter Shot on the target that has medicinal sting active currently, or the pulsating heal will not occur, and you'll waste the shot until the next cooldown. Use this combination of abilities if you think a burst of area of effect is about to hit the party and need a strong heal on top of your blooming shot. I recommend this ability as an extra heal from our growing kit of heal spells and talents. This last one I hope isn't nerfed any more than it already feels. Earth Totem Summon that gives us a tank on demand that will taunt everything and actively steal aggro from the party. It can't be healed directly, which makes it very lame keeping alive. But Blooming Shot does heal it, and it can take a beating with that regard. I also put Avatar of Earth to make the cooldown go to 1 minute. The mythic enchant is not reading correctly and does not give minus 30 seconds to the timer. The most you can get this down is to 45 seconds with enchants and talents. I hope this isn't nerfed as I used my last 2 card slots to get the spell and talent. I sacrificed my Soulstone Resurrection ability for this, and it is entirely optional as the interaction was probably overlooked. This mini tank is fun to use but pisses off tanks, so use in moderation. It is great when solo or you need something to help you take damage, and its cooldown with the Avatar talent makes it a considerable new and fun spell to add to the kit. Here is a closer look at Guardians of the Grove, a talent I put in place when they gave us more spell slots to guarantee a roll on a specific roll. Read up, it explains what it does for your Trent summons. It affects both the trees and the mushrooms. Debatable, optional, in theory, and in my head, this helps me with Medicinal Sting as they share the same modifiers. In actuality, I could probably change this out for Blooming Growth, or the talent that makes Regrowth a critical heal. 100% of the time, after using Swiftmend, I'll change it later, but as of now, there is no need. Spirit of Redemption. The capstone is what I wanted from this. Should I die in battle, I become a spirit for a few seconds, and if nothing can kill me after a few more seconds, I come back to life as if I used a soul stone, never actually dying should the tank or DPS save me from getting killed as a spirit. I cannot heal with Potion Toss, even though it is considered holy and nature combined, so I usually just become a spirit and pray I don't get finished off when it happens. You take less damage as a spirit, and there is a cooldown after you revive. But having the ability to resurrect myself is a godsend in tight moments where I need it. If you have a holy direct heal such as Greater Heal, you can continue to heal while your body returns from spirit form, should you need a heal, as a Spirit of Redemption. This is optional, but I find this a neat and needed talent, should you get yeeted by spellcasters, when the tank does a loss of sight pull without telling you. Conviction, more critical strike chance and totally optional for me. I care not for the strength increase, only the critical strike chance, not much else to say with this lot. Benediction, it gives mana back, at least that's what I believe from always having full mana in Dungeons and Mythic Plus runs. I do see my mana sometimes going back to full, so I assume it works. I've made many alts without this, and they all have mana issues. No Grove Ranger alt I've made has as much mana generation as my main does, which is what this build is. Range shot specialization, debatable. Interchangeable, possible. I can exchange this later on. That being said, I mostly outdamage DPS party members in Mythic Plus if they are not well built, so that little 6% damage increase feels like it means something in my head. As of the making of this video, hunters no longer need ammo for any shots, and range damaged is now based on level, so the capstone isn't that impressive nor beneficial for me. Nature's Blessing, all around good. Your heals are nature-based. This increases that based on your intelligence. By the way, I have more agility than spirit, and my intelligence is beneficial for my ranged damage with some talents. Nature's Rejuvenation. You deal nature-based heals with your kit, and this helps it out. I won't be changing this unless there is some reason not to have it. Improved Arcane Shot. Remember, Arcane Shot and Blooming Shot are one and the same. As far as modifiers, this increases that damage for a generous amount. Master Marksman, more crit chance, more chances to get big damage, and possibly heals off. All good stuff. Piercing Shots, whenever I look at the damage meter, apparently, all those damage over time, area of effect Blooming Shots is causing everything to take even more damage. It also reduces healing by a small amount to the enemy's hit, so now they can't even heal properly. It's up to you if you want this or not, baby. I won't be taking this bugger off anytime soon. Here's an interesting one. Revitalize. I'm definitely always casting Regrowth and making the Blooming Growth proc, which heals 3 people instead of just me, so that's 3 people getting mana, energy, and rage back on top of my blessing. See where I'm going with this? You're generating resource to the party as a healer now with this one, and it looks like it procs on each tick sometimes. I strongly recommend this as a healer maxed out as soon as possible. Living Seed. With enough crit chance, you'll be healing the shit out of your party, and with Blooming Growth, you'll be putting your seed all over their face and body as your Regrowth procs Living Seed on crit.
This is fun.
Master Tactician. More crit chance with ranged shots, so you'll be getting more crits to heal with, and pretty much crit those Blooming Shots for critical healing. Did I also mention it's more crit chance? We can debate this one, but I like it. Whenever the tank stops pulling everything, you'll often want to just stand and use Medicinal Sting on a target and then Blooming Shot as your damage and healing source. This increases that while stationary, and I love that interaction. Switch it out if you must, but my damage is high with a reason behind it with this one. Now would you look at this? More critical strike chance, agility which helps out ranged DPs, and then the capstone just slaps 30 more intellect for fun. This has everything I want in one little package, so this one will stay forever. Agility increases my ranged attack by 120% from whatever my agility is with Grove Ranger agility talent. If you've made it this far into the video, read this one. Need I explain this one? I'll let you figure this one out based on what we previously talked about. As a spirit healer, my spirit is only at around 100 or so. I just want some mana regeneration, and while I could let this one go, not having mana issues so far is why I keep this, as I'm not sure if it's needed with all the other talents. It stays as a memento as to not break this build in case it is helping me. Here is where Wrath of Air Totem comes into play. I simply place one down for the bonus of this talent. That's it. That's why I have Wrath of Air Totem. Purification adds more nature healing to my healing kit. Simple, streamlined, to the point. Ancestral healing is mandatory, those blooming shots now also reduce physical damage taken for the entire party who is hit with your blooming shot arrows. It doesn't stay with loyal light or anything that does the same. I've tried it before, just to see. Spiritual guidance. I don't have much spirit, but this gives me some healing power, and I love to crunch those numbers. This one is mandatory. Blooming Shot is both nature and arcane spell and works with anything that is either nature or arcane, meaning arcane power would make Blooming Shot cost no mana, or earthen power would make Blooming Shot cost no mana. Anyways, I can confirm that this does give mana back, as I can hear it when it procs, and then shortly after my mana pool goes up by approximately 10%. Grab this one as your critical spell bonus maxed out. This talent bumps up your regrowth by a lot. I recommend it. A simple one as well, increases nature healing. More attack power based on stamina. It's decent for what it's worth. Take this and watch your Swift Mend heal others back almost fully, or we'll do a full heal with all the nature heals you are constantly doing. I strongly recommend you take this talent. This makes it so that occasionally you'll not use mana when you use your abilities, and it's at a decent enough proc rate to notice. Again, more crit chance based on dealing damage. I see this always up, so it's worth it for me. More damage adds to your overall damage, can be exchanged should you fancy something else, but it's hard to roll naturally as a card. This boosts Wild Growth to heal double the amount, with a drawback. I find that drawback negatable. This is a double dip, and should be mandatory for such a simple concept. You'll benefit from both the nature and the arcane aspect of this buff. Here is a mandatory talent needed to make your medicinal sting matter when you make a Grove Ranger. If you don't have this, hold off on making one, or pray that you get a synergy roll for this ability talent. It makes your medicinal stings heal even more, and is what helps push this build to make it a healer. Completely optional, but I love having more helping hands when I combine this with Guardians of the Grove. Simple, adds more damage to your blooming shots or medicinal stings, or any ability really. Optional, but it adds up for me, and I personally like it. Creates a storm of electrical currents in an area, dealing nature damage in an area of effect. Optional. We've gone over this one we have, but here is another look at this beautiful talent. This one I personally love. It procs quite a bit with my crit chance, and when it doesn't, it's not the end of the world. You can even Swift Mend those who get the extended regrowth, which reduces the cooldown of your tree summons. A self-heal, that is a bit of extra damage as well. Pick it and keep it if you fancy that. This one is debatable, but a free heal with some damage can never be a bad thing. More damage, and it hits all enemies. This one is nice to have as well. I don't have Bloom, but I should probably invest in getting it. I do like the idea of more healing, and it fits the theme. If you don't have this, you're wasting time as a Grove Ranger. I actually started making a Grove Ranger because I rolled this and decided that's what I'd try out. Turns out I love this build. We've went over this one. Here it is again. Increases my healing when I get more attack power, the reason I can heal with such low spirit. Probably? I'm going to more than likely drop this and get the regrowth talent that makes my Swift Mend crit regrowth on the next cast. This is absolutely mandatory to have. Can't be a Grove Ranger without the talent. It makes your regrowth and healing touch instant after 2 hunter shots. You'll be doing that a lot, and without this, well, don't bother. Defensive optional, keeps me alive and makes me able to tank a bit when I'm being struck in combat. Swift Mend and Regrowth, that's what this talent makes use of. Living Seed makes it so that you will always apply it even when Healing Touch doesn't crit. Earth Totem is my co-tank buddy. One problem is finding out what the hell is happening with all these numbers. Zoom Zoom. This is more an action game than a multiplayer online game, don't you think? Check out that damage meter. I'm not even focused either. There is an orange cat biting me while I play. When I enter the next room, it's going to be Medicinal Sting and Blooming Shot. Just focus on following this speedy tank before he pulls too much and dies. Artillery shot to deal massive area damage and heal everyone. To be honest, I'm always looking at the portraits. The ghouls turn players into undead and makes them walk slow, so I have my Abolish Disease ready to go in that matter. In this case, I follow the tank because I can sense them dying if I stop healing them. But one player has been turned into a ghoul, sadly, and will have to catch up to us later. Guardians of the Grove is active now, my helping healing trees that follow me and heal anyone who needs it. Okay, so where did all these mobs come from? I don't remember water elementals being here. Did we pull the entire map somehow? This tank seems squishy. Guess I'm tanking now. Let's see how this goes. That was janky as all hell, but nonetheless it worked out. I'm going to show what equips I use in another video should anyone be curious enough, and show higher tier content as this was just a laughable experience as far as difficulty.